What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. But importantly, ever so importantly, much more importantly, I have three tremendous guests today. The first of which is the host of the Matt Ramage Show, ever so appropriately titled. He is the face of Quick Trip. That's what I'm titling him. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Ramage. Matt, how the heck are you doing?
I am fantastic. Happy to be here. Putting down a few beers. I had to prepare a little bit,
I would have nothing any other way. I have to actually start by asking you a question. I know you're a big fan of the Quick Trip Glazer. Have you done the frozen Quick Trip Glazer? Have you put them in the freezer? Because I have to tell you, it is life-changing.
I have not. I've heard someone else say that. I've never tried it. I actually should try it, and I could use that for content. You know what I mean?
There you go. No, I do the minis, get the Glazer minis, put them in the freezer, and you'll thank me later. But we got to continue on. We got Matt Froehlich. He is, of course, my good friend from the Pack a Day podcast. You can also find him on Game On Wisconsin. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt_Frey, FRA_. Matt, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. One, I should have expected to get a food recommendation from you on this live stream. Should have known that. And then number two, I'm just trying to pace myself on my own pace today. Drinking wise, it is happy hour. I'm not looking at Matt Ramage below me to see how many beers I should be drinking or not should be drinking.
And do whatever Matt does. I think that's probably do whatever Matt Ramage does. That's how much you should be drinking. I think that's probably the best way to do it. All right. And finally, last but not least, good friend Tim Backus. Backus?
You got it right the first time, Backus.
I shouldn't have questioned it. Tim Backus, he, of course, is a writer for Cheesehead TV. You can follow him on Twitter at Tim Backus. Tim, how the heck are you doing?
Good. I don't know that I can do exactly what Matt Ramage does. That's great advice, but I don't know that I can live up to it. I am, of course, I have to plug carrying the G here today. So I'll be stepping down on that, and actually right after we get off of this thing, I'm going to be heading down to 1840 Brewing in Bayview for my usual Friday stop. So, got a nice little Friday planned.
Way to make us all jealous. Appreciate that, first of all. Matt, it looks like you got a spotted cow.
Oh, yeah. I got a spotted cow. Although I do love me some Carry the G,
It's great stuff. Matt Frey, look, you got a beer or a mixed drink? What do we got?
No, just a little Michelob Ultra. We've pivoted a lot off of the seltzers from the summer, but I definitely need to be diving into some Oktoberfest stuff because I'm probably a few weeks behind on that.
It's the first time I'm not having alcohol on happy hour. I haven't decided. This is not for the kids listening. I am I drink a lot or I drink none. There's not really anything in the middle for me. I don't like the casual beer. I haven't decided if I want to drink yet tonight. So right now we've just got some Black Cherry Mountain Dew Kickstart that we'll be throwing back today. So that is my usual weapon of choice for all non-alcoholic drinking. All right, we got to talk about, first and foremost, this Packers injury report, because certainly we get some updates. Aaron Rodgers totally cleared off, thumb's not an issue. That's obviously great news. Then Tipa Galeai listed as out. I think he had not been practicing all week, so sort of expected there. Probably doesn't affect things too much, although certainly we saw Tipa a little bit on special teams. Christian Watson also listed as out. Aaron Nagler asked during the presser today with Matt LaFleur if this could be something where they actually shut him down now for a little while, since this has not been his first hamstring issue and it seems to be sort of lingering. So it sounds like that is within the realm of possibility. But for right now, all we know, he is out for this weekend against the Jets. And then we get the semi-unfortunate news that Rashawn Gary listed as questionable, and Matt LaFleur said he did have some small concern about Rashawn just in general. Didn't say about his status or anything like that. Sounds like he was limited at practice, which is a good thing that he wasn't just out or not practicing at all. But Matt Froehlich, I will start with you. Your thoughts on the injury report?
I mean, the last couple of weeks have been kind of mundane, really. Like, we've been able to get back Bakhtiari in full strength. Elton's been able to be there. I mean, there's been a few hiccups along the way since we were limited to a bunch of receivers, but I mean, I didn't put a ton of weight into the Rodgers thumb situation. I mean, I did think when he got smoked at the end of the game last week, I was like, okay, I'm glad he walked off the field and was able to get up, because they cut away and they're like, that's it, game's over. It's like, okay, is he alive? So probably from the thumb injury from that occurred there. But the big one for me, I don't want to put Christian Watson's hamstring to the side because I think that's still a concern, but the Rashawn Gary toe thing, that just came out of nowhere. I feel like I didn't hear anything about that all week. All of a sudden today I'm seeing stuff, and I go and look at the injury report. He didn't, it was non-disclosed, I believe, on Wednesday, and then limited participant today and Thursday. So that's that's a shocking one. I mean, overall, like I said, it's been the last couple weeks have been pretty okay. Some frequent, flyers on the injury report that we're seeing on there again, but the big one I think was Rayshon. It's like, dude, he's been having a career year, literally just the staple of this defense. Like, he's always having a great game, it seems like. Unfortunate to see, and then like a toe injury is just kind of bizarre, just a weird injury. And then with LaFleur's comments on it, also raises some red flags as well.
Yeah, Tim, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it sucks to see Rashawn Gary on the injury list, but on the other hand, I have to compare this to the last couple of years, and they're still about the healthiest we've seen this team in quite some time. So, you're back home playing the Jets, a team that's doing better than expected, but it's still the Jets. Like, this is still a team that the Packers, on paper, should be able to come in and handle with all of these guys potentially being out. Like Matt was saying, you don't want to see perhaps your best player on the team to this point of the season sitting out. But there should be no excuses for the Packers based on anything on this injury report, in my opinion.
No, I think that's fair. Mr. Ramage, what about you?
I think the biggest one is Rashawn Gary, because he's, I think that he's a big part of this defense, and a toe injury is just weird. Like, is it going to linger on? Is it going to be something that he'll play, but he's not going to be? And then hopefully it's not that. Like, I didn't really hear anything about it. I get my news from you guys, so if I'm not on Twitter, I'm kind of in the dark. But Christian Watson is interesting because he's been kind of here and there. He's the guy I'm looking forward to seeing. So maybe they do let him sit for a little bit, let that get right before he comes back. But I think the big one is Rashawn Gary. Hopefully that's not something that will linger on through the season.
Yeah, I'm glad you hit that, Matt, because I think toe injuries do have the ability to linger sometimes, and whether it's a turf toe or whether it's a broken toe, whatever it may be. Hopefully not COVID toe. I was going to say hopefully not COVID toe. We're not getting into that. We're not even going there. Thank you, Mr. Backus. You never know what's going to linger in that regards. And you just this is a player that is so insanely important to the Packers, both now and obviously, for the remainder of the season, and of course, long-term as well. If he's practicing already, that would give me some hope that this isn't something that's going to be, come, December, January, you're still worried about Rashawn Gary's toe. But they need him very much coming up. This isn't the same Packer team that you can just say it's the Jets at home, they're going to win. Like, it's an open and shut case. I think that's probably the case. I think they probably get a win this weekend, probably even without Rashawn. But I think we all expected them to beat the Giants in London. I think we all expected them to be more competitive against Minnesota week 1. I think we all expected them to crush the Bailey Zappi led New England Patriots. And those things just don't happen or haven't happened. And I also think a lot of people on the Twitter timeline last week of, don't worry, Rodgers is going to go down and lead him down the field in overtime or, to overtime in London. And it's just, you can't take that stuff for granted right now. The parity in this league is insane. Every team can throw a punch at you. And if you can't counter punch, you're going to be in trouble. Green Bay didn't counter punch last week, and they're going to have to take every game seriously from here on out. And when you lose a player like Rashawn Gary, who has the ability to make legitimate game-changing plays, I think we've all talked about this week to some capacity, this defense and how we expect them to be better and the talent on it. Even though I believe that to be the case, I think playmakers are huge. You go back to that 2010 defense, and of course, Charles Woodson, huge playmaker, right? Tramon Williams, playmaker. Nick Collins, playmaker. Clay Matthews, playmaker. Colin Jenkins, to some extent, playmaker. BJ Raji's picking off passes and taking them to the end zone. You just had a lot of playmakers. I think this defense has a lot of good players. I don't think they have a ton of playmakers. And I think Rashawn Gary, clearly probably the 1A playmaker on this defense. And if you're out for him for even a game or 2, 3, that could seriously affect the Packers. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on, is I think even we always get this impression of okay, Rashawn Gary's actually playing this Sunday. Everything's good to go. If the toe affects him in the game and he's, 60% of normal Rashawn Gary, that affects things too. So him just playing doesn't solve all ills. It's him playing and playing back to the level that he's capable of. So that will absolutely be something to keep an eye on Sunday. I want to just touch base on Christian Watson just a little bit, because I think he is so important to this team this season to be that deep threat that can stretch the field. I think Romeo Doubs has shown that he can be that, even though he completed a lot of those. I do feel like they need that player to stretch the field more. And it just seems like Watson has to be that guy. Ramage, I'll start with you this time. From a Christian Watson standpoint, if he is shut down and it like all of a sudden it takes him more time to ramp up, how difficult could that be for this offense? How much would they have to overcome there?
I think it'd be big, especially like it seems like they're trying to use him on like kind of gadgety type of play, like jet sweeps and stuff. At least on Madden for sure. I gotta remember real life for Madden because I was playing a lot of that yesterday. But I think Romeo Dobbs is that guy that has to step up, and he has, especially on Madden, by the way. No, but I think that he could be that guy, and I think the Packers, Rodgers has to sprinkle the ball around, whether Watson's there or not. They have to like use every person on this offense, including the running backs, especially. But I think that they can overcome, but it's definitely a big hit. Their wide receiver group isn't huge to begin with, and to be down one, and especially someone who, a young rookie that people thought that they were going to be dependent on this season.
It is crazy that we're in 2022 and still like the number one thing that matters on Madden is speed. Like if you've got speed, it's just so insanely important, man. Some of those Raiders teams back in the day that were absolutely brutal, but they had all of those 4.2 40 guys. Like, man, like you could play with like the best team in the world and somebody's got the Raiders with a bunch of like 67 rated guys, but like they've got 99 speeds all over the place. That team was a pain in the ass to play, but I digress. Tim, thoughts on Christian Watson's absence?
I actually, at this point, don't think it makes a difference at all. The Packers just have had no interest, it seems like, in sending him down the field, like past 5 yards. Like they're just having him in motion in the back, tossing it to him on either jet sweeps or those touch passes. And there hasn't really been any kind of memorable route that he's run to me other than that first play of the season that he dropped. And so I do think that he has the potential to be that guy who can eventually stretch the field for the team and be like a tool in the offense. But right now, the Packers sure don't seem to think that he's ready for that. So whether he's playing or not playing, I don't think it matters a bit at this point.
Matt Fraze, you're nodding your head. Are you in agreement?
I agree with Tim so much. Like normally you'd be like, hey, this is like taking away from the progression of this young receiver. But it's like, when he's been in there, he hasn't done anything. They're not getting him involved with the offense, and there's all this opportunity, right? Like, I don't understand how they haven't got him more involved post hamstring when he's been healthy, post the drop that Tim had mentioned for, week 1 versus the Vikings. You would just think it just makes sense to ramp him up just as much as they've done with Dobbs, and that hasn't happened. So you would like to see him being this deep threat, this huge Madden threat. Also, height guy too, that contributes a lot, but he just hasn't done anything really when he's been on the field, and they haven't put him into routes. And it just seems like the opportunity has been there. It just hasn't happened. And whether that's been some limitations from the hamstring that he's been playing through injured, that's one thing. But ultimately, like when he's on the field, he's becoming that Tyler Ervin, like as we saw on Twitter this week, the Tyler Ervin, just like jet sweep guy. That's really all he does, which is super frustrating because you want to get him involved more in this offense because there's opportunities there.
It is super frustrating. I will agree with both of you. I also agree with Matt. So the thing I will say is I don't think Christian Watson being out this week affects the game at all. I don't think there's any, like you said, yeah, maybe it would have been the kick returner. Maybe he gets a couple jet sweeps. Maybe he catches a couple, 7-yard, dig routes or something. Okay. Like that's replaceable. Clearly. I don't think there's any issue there. I do think that for this season, by end of year, they have to find a way to get more explosivity. They have to find a way to get this guy involved. They have to find a way to get the ball in his hands and let him do some of the heavy lifting after the catch. I don't know if that's on drag routes, if that's on bubble screens, if that's on slants, if that's on 9 routes. I don't know what it is. Quite frankly, I don't care. I don't care if you hand him the football. And I know that's an issue already because you got to get Jones and Dillon the ball. But you just have precious few players on this team that you can get the ball in their hands and they actually have the speed and ability to do something special with it. Clearly Aaron Jones, one of those players. I think Romeo Dobbs is developing, but I think even Dobbs, I'm not sure he's ever going to be that 4.3 40 type guy that's just going to get the ball and just, go to the end zone, right? I think he has the ability to be a deep threat. I don't think there's any question about that, but I just feel like this offense needs some oomph and some explosivity and some playmaking. And I feel like, I don't think to spoil anyone, I don't think there's any big trade coming at the trade deadline that you're just all of a sudden going to get this new guy that all right, revolutionize the offense like that. I don't see it. I think they're going to have to find that internally. And I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but by week 7, like week 15, week 16, week 17, and going into the playoffs, they need Christian Watson as a contributor in some capacity. So every one of these games that he misses, it hurts that long-term, view of it and him getting ready for when games actually matter. So that's my bigger concern. Not like you said, guys, I don't think it affects this week in one iota, but I think it does affect his progression. And that's something that they just need right now.
I will say that if they decide to just throw Amari Rodgers back on the kickoff return again, just because Watson isn't playing, I'm going to lose my mind. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore.
I think they already said it. I think.
Oh my God.
I think.
What
more do you need to see? What more do you need to see?
So there's a lot of talk about that. Like, I don't think that is a Bisaccia issue. Like, I don't know who you want back there because, like, I don't know. Like, legitimately, like, I guess, Tim, do you have an answer to like who you would want returning kicks right now?
Anyone else? John Runyon. I don't care.
Like, someone who just will catch it and like you can be confident. Like, I don't think Packers expect any like flashy, like, you know what I mean? I don't think there's anyone on this team that would do that, but like every time he's back there, I don't know why. I don't know. It's an anxiety attack a little bit.
I mean, Kylan Hill maybe coming back is something to look at. Like, the fact that they put Keyshawn Nixon back there is like, whoa, like that's where we're at. Like, that's who we're putting back there is crazy.
So here's my thing. Like, Kylan Hill, his first game back from ACL, whenever that is, just coming back from an ACL, which, by the way, he hurt on a kick return. I don't know that just like making him the kick returner is maybe the smartest move to begin with. Like, maybe you let him get hit as a running back a few times before you have him go back as a kick returner. Maybe not. Maybe you're just like, you know what? This is your job. Go back out there. Don't tear your ACL again. But to me, this is a Gutekunst thing. And I've said this for years now, at least like the last few years where you've got call-ups from the practice squad. I get when you have a 53-man roster, it is very difficult to keep any specialists outside of punter, kicker, long snapper, right? Like, you can't just keep like a guy that's just a kick returner. That's really hard to do. When you have a 69-man roster and you can call up a guy for 3 games at a time if you want, like, just pick up a kick returner for 3 weeks, call him up each week for 3 weeks, get rid of him, call up another just kick returner, punt returner. Like, there's got to be somebody that's played in the USFL, the Arena League, the XFL, like somebody out there that can be a semi-explosive returner that even if that's their only job, that's what they can do. And to me, that's just like, it's like, do you really need like some of these like back of the end practice squad guys that are never going to get call-ups? Like, can you please just find a returner in some capacity? So I digress. That to me is a Gutekunst issue and not a Bisaccia issue. And I like to like Rich's defense, like, listen, I'm not super excited about Keyshawn Nixon back there. I am intrigued by the John Runyon Jr. Question, but like, we can't obviously risk John Runyon Jr. to injury, so you can't do that. But I don't know. They've got to figure out something. All right, there's been a plethora of not negativity. I think it's more realism than negativity, but it's been a rough week for Packer fans. There's been a lot of things to go over that have not gone well through 5 weeks. So we're going into a new weekend now. It's Packers Jets. We're on to New York, the other New York. I want to start with some optimism. So Matt Ramage, I can't think of anyone better to start me off with some optimism. Give me your biggest reason for optimism as we continue on the remainder of the season and get ready for the Jets on Sunday.
I think like this is what I've been telling my people is that like this roster is good. They're not playing as good as like I expect them to play for sure. I talked so much trash this whole offseason, but I think that this roster is good if they just start making the right decisions, run the ball. Hopefully Rashawn Gary's all right. Like this defense is stacked. Like they should be able to do good. And the Jets aren't like what I thought they were in the offseason. I think they're a little better. They're still not like, you know, a great team. Should be a team that they can get there and beat at home, get some confidence maybe going forward. But I definitely think that this is a winnable game. I think that the offense might actually pop off a little bit. I feel like whenever everyone's trashing this team in the media and then just fans in general, then they kind of like Rodgers like pulls something out of a hat. So like hopefully I think that the offense is gonna have a good game. This roster sack, they're gonna fix it.
All right, Matt Froehlich, how about you? Give me some optimism.
I agree with the offensive thing. You can see the sparkle in Aaron Rodgers' eye this week when he was on Pat McAfee talking about a noon Lambeau game. Like, it's just crazy. And like, I think I saw a stat, like they almost have like double the points per game right now that they've had at home than on the road. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but I just think there's the mystique of coming back to Lambeau, October game. I think they definitely took some lumps last week. I'm sure not only going up against Martindale's defense, but just the travel that was going overseas, all the distractions around that, whether or not they were pre-planned distractions or just happened. I think the Jets are a good football team, just like the Giants are a good football team. They're exceeding expectations. Like Ramage said, going into the year, like we didn't expect the Jets to be this good. They have some good pieces on paper, but there's no way you would have told any of us that Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco would have split time and they would still be over 500. Like, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So I'm super optimistic. It's from a lot of stuff I had heard this week, press conferences, Matt Ramage's people, like you mentioned, like I think a lot of it has to do with the defense just getting right. And that's from the sounds of it, it sounds like Joe Barry's going to make these strides to get it more corrected, whether that be pressure from the defensive backs, moving around his slot corner a little bit. Just, it seemed from what it sounded, and playing press coverage a little bit instead of playing 5 to 10 yards off. Like, that was some things that Joe Barry was upfront about and discussed. So, I mean, if that's the case, I don't see how this young team overall for the Jets, but especially this offense, isn't going to be kind of a little bit of a bottleneck. I think Rashawn Gary might factor in if he's injured or not. Maybe it's a positive, and they can't get as much pressure with Rashawn. They have to bring an extra guy or two, and then it just accidentally works out to getting more pressure with some extra guys. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty optimistic because the Packers home game, usually the offense plays better. I thought that was going to be last week. I think there's just a lot of pent up just offensive firepower that needs to happen.
Tim?
Yeah, I think there's several things. One, the pieces are all there, and Matt Ramage talked a little bit about this already. They've got all the ingredients for success. It's just a matter of, I feel like, making the right recipe, I guess. But I don't know how much faith I have in Joe Barry to actually act on what he said this week. But if they do, like, they've got the players on defense to clamp down. And then on offense, they've got the playmakers that they need. It's just a matter of getting them the ball, following the game plan. Two, I think the loss last week may have been, one of those things where it's better in the long run. Like, maybe it was the wake-up call that they needed, right? Everybody sort of expected them to just sort of waltz into London, take down the Giants, come on back home, and that didn't happen at all. Hopefully that, set some alarm bells, ringing off a little bit. They're still 3-2. It's still early in the season, plenty of time to make some corrections. Hopefully that was a little bit of a push in the right direction. And then finally, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been good by his standards this year, right? He's been, above average, maybe by league standards. Not good by his standards. But he's still the quarterback. He's still coming off back-to-back MVP seasons. You got to feel like sooner or later he's going to get it going, and I don't see any week better than this week to do that, right? Back home at Lambeau, coming off a loss, hearing a lot of negativity this week. And he himself this week talking about the excitement of getting back there, getting to work with these guys. I think if he's going to get it going, this is about as good of an opportunity as he's got to do so. So those are my positive thoughts for the week.
Yeah, I think all fair positives. I'm frustrated that it took a loss to the Giants to figure out that they needed to play a different brand of football, that they needed to play aggressive defense, and they need to get Aaron Jones the ball with a level of consistency, etc. But I am very optimistic moving forward that it was the slap in the face that they needed, and they learned their lessons from it, and they're going to be a different team moving forward. I do think we're going to see a very different brand of defense. It seemed like Joe Barry got the message loud and clear of how these players need to be lined up differently, that they need to be lined up on time, that they need to be ready to go, that they need to be setting the tone, and that they need to be playing a completely different brand of football. Would I've liked to have seen that happen starting week 1 rather than starting week 6? Yes, I very much would have. But if the message is across and this is the way that they can play football now, and you're sort of taking the reins off of the players and letting them go do their thing, then I think that's a very positive step in the right direction. And I'm very excited to see what the results will be with that this week. And then to Tim, your point, I think they're 3-2, and there's almost nothing that's gone above what I would have expected so far. Like almost everything is below my expectations. Like Aaron Rodgers is nowhere near Aaron Rodgers. The running backs are solid, good. Offensive line is well below my expectations. Wide receivers, fine. Robert Tonyan doesn't look like his pre-injury self quite yet. The defensive line has not been like what I expected outside of Kenny Clark. Linebackers inside Devondre Campbell has not played up to what I would expected. And certainly the defensive backs are far below my expectations outside of special teams, which I think we could all agree has at least met, if not exceeded our expectations, are very extremely low, very low, bottom low expectations. Outside of that, there's not much that's really gone super right. And they're 3-2 and they're right in the thick of everything. So you would think, and the other thing I'll say too, turnovers, right? Like they haven't even sniffed winning the turnover battle yet, and they're 3-2. So turnovers will start coming in bunches. They're going to start winning the turnover battle. I think the offense, they're going to hit on some of those explosive plays. Their defense is going to be more aggressive. And I do think there is an avenue where all of a sudden you start getting those turnovers and the defense plays more aggressive and the offense starts hitting on a couple of those explosive plays. All right, well, that's a night and day difference if you get those three things going in your direction. And all of a sudden, some of these close games end up being 14-point wins. So I'm optimistic in that regards. I need to see the proof on the field, but I do think there's a lot to be positive about. All right, let's talk about some matchups this week. Packers, Jets. I don't know. Who wants to start? I'll open up the floor to anyone who wants to start. What is a key matchup or a player that you're going to be watching in this game this week?
Pass rush.
All right, go ahead, Tim.
If Rashawn Gary's not there, who's going to step up and rush the passer? Because they got to get some bodies on Zach Wilson, or maybe if Joe Flacco's back there, whoever they're throwing back there, you got to take those guys down. And Rashawn Gary's been doing it as well as anybody this year to this point. Preston Smith's still playing well this year. He's kind of maintained his 2021 level of play, I feel like. But behind those guys, there's not a whole lot of depth at the edge rush position. Kenny Clark is there playing great football this year also. But you've got to have somebody on the edge other than Preston Smith that you can rely on. So if the Packers can't rush the passer, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Joe Barry actually following through and saying he's going to play tighter press coverage this week. So if that pass rush doesn't happen, it could be crossing routes for days again.
Ramage?
So I agree 100% because pass rush is key. I think to beat anyone, I don't care if it's a low-level quarterback or it's one of the best quarterbacks, get a quarterback's face changes everything. But I'll say the running backs. I want to see the A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both get the ball, use them in different ways. I feel like they're two weapons that, they've been used. They had some good attempts in, I think, the Patriots game. They won, but that was what it was. That game wasn't pretty. But they need to get the ball more. I don't care if it's screens, if it's running, if it's putting on routes. I don't like the smart people that can think of this stuff, figure out how to put the ball in their hands, and so that's one thing that I think I'll be watching the most.
Matt?
I'm going to go a little high level. I was looking at the Jets defense, but I think last week we saw some, sprinkling of Brian Daboll, Martindale, kind of being a little bit maybe overpowered or overmatching the Packers. I'm going to look for Bob Saleh. He's had the name and the number of the Packers for a number of years when he was the Niners defense. And I was looking at the Niners defense. I'm like, I like their secondary. I know their front seven super banged up. I like a lot of guys on that team on that side of the ball, but I think it's just, Bob Saleh has been a solid competitor versus Matt LaFleur and a colleague of his for many of years. So I think that defense is what they're going to bring, the way he's going to draw up X's and O's to take away the running game like Matt Ramage talked about. It's been a foregone conclusion when they get away from the run, the next game they go right back to it, and it's 30 rushes, 33 rushes. So it's that's exactly what the Jets should be looking for. I don't know why they wouldn't think we would not try to establish the run. So if Saleh can scheme up to take that away, try to get some throws downfield. We've already talked about all the receivers that are banged up or the pass catchers between Watson not playing, Tonyan not being at full strength, still missing that integral piece to stretch the field. I think it could be a tough day for the Packers at home offensively. So I'm looking for just basically the coaching matchup that was last week. See if we can get past it this week.
I hope you're wrong. I hope the offense is in for an explosive week, but I think you're definitely within the realm of possibility there. And Bob Saleh, like you said, has certainly had a bit of a number against Matt LaFleur and the Packers. Really like Tim's, the pass rush. I watched some tape already of this Jets offense. Zach Wilson in rhythm, if you give him time, very similar to Danny Jones, like looks pretty solid. You get in his face, you pressure him. Like he's not quite yet to the point where he's going first read, second read, third read. A lot of times it's first read. If it's open, I can rip it and I can throw with confidence. If you start getting some pressure in his face and you have to have him go through his progressions a little bit more, that's where you can really get to Zach Wilson. So I think that pressure is going to be really important from just kind of a fun matchup. Like I think Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and Corey Davis versus, Jair Razul and Eric Stokes is just a really fun matchup overall. But this Jets O-line just not very good. And I think if you can win up front, that just changes the game entirely. And I think we all saw like 40 points for the Jets. And I'm like, man, they're like really playing some great offense. Like this was a really close game. I think it was like 19 points going into the fourth quarter. Had a couple of things go their way with some turnovers, got a couple easy touchdowns at the end. This was not like this explosive Jets offense that you can't contain. I think there's a lot of ways to keep them under wraps, and it starts up front for sure. You guys brought up the running backs. I want to start with Aaron Jones. Just a simple, easy question here. Mr. Ramage, how many touches for Aaron Jones this week?
I hope at least and I'd like to see it, in the perfect world, I'd like to see 30 between both of them. I think I was looking at the Patriots game. He had like 17 that game. I think at least 15, but I don't know. I think that actually more than that. I think that they should be shooting screens. Yeah, I would say 30.
30 combined or 30 for just Jones?
No, I think 30 combined for both of them, but I don't care how you split it up. Whoever's like hot, whoever's doing it. But they definitely need to. I'm not sure the perfect number. I'm no coach, but they definitely need to get him the ball.
Don't sell yourself short. You're a Madden coach. That's way more.
It's funny because I haven't played Madden in so long. I started playing, then I was like, I have no business talking about any of this because I suck at this game, and I assume the real NFL is a lot harder.
It's It's clearly the players in Madden. That's not the coaching.
Well, and Madden, you can turn it back to rookie. You can scale it back. In real life, they can't do that. If they suck, that's just what it is.
I think the Packers have been playing on all Madden recently with some of the stuff they've been trying to do. I think the Packers need to scale it back to rookie or pro and just kind of start doing some of the simple things like playing the right coverages, like getting Aaron Jones the football. That they could actually use those sliders going down a little bit. Tim, what about you?
Man, they should shoot to get him 20 or more. I think he ends up closer to 13 or 14, but we'll see. I don't know.
Mr. Froehlich?
Something in my subconscious is the number 18. I think it has to do with Marcus Eversole. Huge fan of the of the program, Pack a Day podcast, frequent guest. But I feel like years ago he used to talk about like the number 18 for Aaron Jones to get touches, and it was in the Mike McCarthy era. Even still, like if he got above 18, I feel like that was a Packers W from what I remember. So I'm going to say 18. However he slices and dices that, I do kind of agree with Ramage's stance there. He didn't answer question directly, which I'm shaming him for in my mind. But like overall, like 30, I think 30 is the number collectively. And it's never going to be a 20 to 10 or a 25 to 5. It's going to be a combination of whoever's the hot hand and just where it comes down. But you look at some of those games where they've had 30 plus and they've ran the snot out of the ball, or they've been able to get those into the hands of 33 and 28. So I think 30 collectively is also a good number if we're skating the actual question.
It's interesting.
Go ahead. I was actually in my head going to get a beer when he said my name. I didn't expect him to say my name, so I was like thrown off guard a little bit. But
by all means, go grab a drink, my man.
I got a little mini fridge down here. Oh, but that's what I was thinking about when you said my name, and I was like, oh, okay, I got to talk now.
I totally lost my train of thought. No, I think for Jones, it's such an interesting dynamic, right? Because I think there's such a sweet spot where, like, I don't think you really want him touching it like more than like 25 or more times. Like, I think that starts to wear him down through the course of a season. It is a long season and you need him to stay healthy and fresh through the course of the year. So like, I don't think you want him more than like 25 or more. I also don't think you want him less than 18. Like this to me is a player that in this offense with no Devontae Adams, like lacking playmakers overall, like I get you have an AJ Dillon, but Jones is just different, right? Like he has that explosivity that can take it the distance and really be such a playmaker. Like it's 18 to 24. It has to be in that range for me. And I don't care how you do it, whether it's via screens, whether it's via, just handing the ball off. Like I just don't care. I don't care how you get him the ball, but 18 to 24 seems like the magic number. And I'm with you, Matt, whether that's on the lower side of 18, or that's the high end of 24, I don't really care, but it seems somewhere in that realm. It's got to be the right amount of touches. Tim, I'm losing track. Yeah, you said it, right?
Yeah, and I was going to say too, we've been talking a lot about how the Packers, we meaning like us collective fans on Twitter, have been talking about how the Packers need to run the ball more and commit to the run. But I think even more than that, what's been shocking to me about the offense so far this year is that they're really not doing everything they could / should be doing to get their running backs involved in the passing game. Like there's just not really been any kind of creativity there at all. And when you have that deficiency at pass catcher, like the void left by Devontae Adams, young unproven guys at wide receiver, why are you not getting two of your best and most reliable pieces on offense involved in the passing game? It blows my mind. I don't understand it.
And Tim, to your point, weren't we like a couple months removed from people saying Aaron Jones could be the top pass catcher in this offense too?
Yeah.
We're not that far away from that it's not even that hot of a take, to be honest. Like I feel like that's a real possibility. I just feel like they haven't even tried to rely on those guys in the pass game.
Do you guys think I'm thinking out loud here, but I think there's some level of the truth to it. As weird as this is going to sound, I almost feel like there's too many ingredients on offense right now. Like it's almost like they're trying to like not make anyone mad and trying to kind of get everyone the football a little bit, rather than focusing on the players that they actually need out on the field. Like I feel like at wide receiver, and especially like once everyone's back, like we've already heard Rodgers say like he wants to get Lazard, Cobb, and Watkins the ball more. You can clearly see that they're trying to get Romeo more involved. You can see that they want to try to get Christian more involved. Well, that's like 5 guys right there that yet wide receiver that you're like trying to get touches for. Then you've got Dillon and Jones. It's not like you've got your like they're trying to get both of those guys in at running back. You're trying to reacclimate Tunyon into the offense. Mercedes Lewis is going to get his snaps. They're trying to get DeGuara involved in the offense. Tyler Davis plays like 30 snaps a game. And it almost feels like rather than going with the key guys that are going to set you up in the positions to succeed more often than not, it almost seems like there's just, I don't even know exactly how to define it, but I feel like they have to get into like a shorter rotation, because it almost feels like nobody's getting into a rhythm. Like everyone is like, they finally catch something and then they don't see the ball again for like 2 quarters. And like, nobody's actually feeling confident or momentum or anything. It's just, everyone's just going in and out of the game. There's no real rhythm to anything. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but somebody tell me if I'm an idiot, because that wouldn't be the first time.
It makes a ton of sense, because the default last year, the last few years, has been throw it to 17. Like when you're in a pickle, whether it be a third down or you need some offensive firepower or whatever the case. Now it's like the jack of all trades, master of none. You have all these pieces that you're trying to get involved, and you think you should run the ball more, or should get DeGuara involved more, or progress these young receivers, or now Lazard's. It's like there's just way too many mouths to feed in an offense that truly isn't that high powered. So it's really tough to spread the ball around a ton when you don't really have just the standard or the common denominator that is 17 or is 33 running the ball consistently or whatever. It's a tricky situation. So I think there's a lot of mouths to feed. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think that they need to just do what works, like not worry about who, gets what. Because I agree with spreading the ball around and let other guys, see who's hot or whatever. But like if something's working, just stick with that. Like whoever, I think it seems pretty simple, but it's complicated more than that. But there's whoever's good, give them the ball. That's my expert analyst right there.
You say you're not a coach.
Yeah, right. It sounds simplistic, but it's not stupid. It's like legitimately true. Like, and that's been the weird thing with Aaron Jones is like, just get the guy the ball. Like, it doesn't seem that difficult, but apparently for some reason, like every 5 to 6 games, we go through the same conversation of like, why did Aaron Jones not touch the ball? And then the next game or the next few games, he gets the ball a ton. And then like all of a sudden they forget about him again. And it's been that way his entire career with different coaches, with different running backs. And it's just, I don't know. It's the weirdest thing ever. All right. Before we get out of here, I want some predictions. I want to start not score related. One bold prediction for this game. All right, Ramage, I feel like you'll have something good for me. I'm going to start with you.
All right, I'm gonna say that this offense pops off. I'm gonna go pretty bold considering the season that the Packers are having. I'll say 4 touchdowns for Rodgers. And like I'm hoping that some of those are to running backs because like actually I don't care who catches them, but I think the offense, I think that's kind of maybe that's bold for this season because that really hasn't been happening. But I would like to at home the offense pops off. Maybe the defense gets some turnovers, puts them in great situations to get some of those touchdowns. But yeah, I look for Aaron Rodgers to come out because I feel like every time he's disrespected heavy, like he takes it personal, like Michael Jordan, you know, like nah, I took it personal from a documentary. I'm not comparing them, people, but you know, because people will go off on Twitter about that. No, but
I'll have
think
Tyler
this
Herrick
offense is
clip
gonna go.
that little clip, just that one.
No, but that's my bold prediction.
All right, Mr. Froehlich.
I'm gonna go with 2. They're very small though. 30 plus touches between Dillon and Jones. I feel like that's a recipe to success, and they're gonna win the turnover battle. I don't know why this week all of a sudden, but I just feel like a young quarterback, bad offensive line. It seems like a recipe for success. And all the pressure that's on Joe Barry, like that defense has got to stand up for him. So I guess those are 2 that I'm going to go with. But one, I'm very confident in the 30 plus touches. The other one, honestly, they haven't really forced so many turnovers. I'm trying to just manifest that right now.
All right. Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to go with 1 for offense, 1 for defense. On offense, I'm going to say Romeo Doubs gets his first career 100-yard game, partially due to a big play deep from Rodgers. I'm going to say they connect finally on a deep play this year, and Doubs is the recipient of that. First career 100-yard game, a touchdown or 2. On defense, I have absolutely no reason to think this right from everything we've seen in the injury reports this week. But I'm going to say Rashawn Gary guts it out and plays and gets multiple sacks.
I like that a lot too. I'm gonna steal Matt Froehlich's a little bit here. I like a lot of turnover. I think we're gonna see some turnovers in bunches this week. I think you have a little bit of a perfect storm. I think this Packers defense has probably felt a little bit handcuffed as players and what they're able to do in this defense. I think we're going to see a much more aggressive version of that with or without Gary. I think with Gary, obviously you have some benefits there, but even without, I think they actually might have to be more aggressive to generate some pressure, which I forget who said it earlier, but maybe even by like mistake, they might actually stumble into something that really works. So I think that's going to be the case. I think you've got a quarterback that isn't super totally comfortable quite yet, which could lead to some sack fumbles or some interceptions, which they need. And I think just the fact that this defense is going to have an attacking mentality, I think we could see Rasul or Jair, some of these guys just finally getting their hands on the football. And I just think we're going to see a much different defense this week. So Matt Frey, I'm with you. I think we're going to see 3 or 4 turnovers, maybe even a pick 6 or a score on defense. So I am manifesting it, if nothing else. All right, last but not least, final score predictions for this week. Matt Frey, I will start with you.
I always put up my score prediction on Monday nights when I do the final dump stream with Brennan Dworzinski for Game on Wisconsin. Like I stick with it every week from whenever it's Tuesday through Sunday morning. So I'm going to stick with it again, 24-17 Packers. There's a lot that's changed each week and each day, but I stick with that. So I'm going to go 24-17. Ramage, we're not going to get 4 touchdowns for Rodgers. I apologize. However, we'll sub out one of those. Actually, that was even work. 24-17. That's all I'm doing. I like the Jets also with the points, if anyone cares.
All right, Ramage.
I got to make sure my math is right because I just predicted 4 touchdowns. No, it's funny because whenever I do a score prediction, it's like different every time, like throughout the week. But I was just in my head thinking 4 touchdowns. How many points is that? No, but I could see him I'll say 34-17. I think that I have no reason to say that I don't have all the touchdowns lined up, but or all the points. But I think that it's going to be a good win. They're going to be at home. I'm going to be there, so I feel like they're all going to care about that. Want to make my experience even better. So I feel like they're all going to play up. But yeah, I'll say 34-17 today. Tomorrow it might be different. It might be even more.
I like it. Tim?
Yeah, so my prediction for my column in Cheesehead TV yesterday was a little more on the pessimistic side. I had them winning, but it was something like 20-17 or something really close and low scoring. But I don't know. I think it's the Matt Ramage effect or something. I'm just feeling a little more positive at the moment. So I'm gonna say we'll go 27-13. Not like a massive offensive explosion, but I think we're going to come out of it feeling better.
The Matt Ramage effect, also known as alcohol, gets you
Yeah.
feeling a little bit better.
This helps because even when I said the bold prediction, I was actually thinking in my head 3, but I was like, you know what? Just go for it. Let's go 4.
Spotted cow talking. That's when you know
Yeah,
you're
it
at your
does.
best. I'm going to say 27-20 Packers. I think the Jets, once again, are like every other game this year is going to be a little bit, pesky and feisty and kind of annoying. I could see this game lingering into the fourth quarter. I could see some antsy Packer fans in the seats that once again, the Packers didn't put the opposing team away. I could also see a situation where it's like 27-13 and then the Jets get a late touchdown just to be super annoying at the end. And then the Packers got to recover an onside kick to get out. Like I could see all that happening, but at the end, I'm saying 27-20 Packers. I think ultimately they get the win and feel a lot better next week than they did coming out of this week. All right, Matt Froehlich, where can we follow you and tell us anything you're working on?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Matt_Frey_. That's at MATT_FRA_. Truly just trying to connect with anyone Packers related, blogging, streaming, podcasting, anyone that wants to just chop it up on Twitter. Also, like I already mentioned, Final Dump Mondays, 8:00 Central Standard Time on the YouTube side of Game On Wisconsin, and Facebook and Twitter with my boy Brendan Dworzinski. Basically just breaking everything down from the weekend, dumping it, flushing it, and then getting into the next week. So all my content that way, and then just scrolling the Twitter timeline like a degenerate would for all the Packers news.
What's your current Madden rating? That's the big question.
Dude, current Madden rating on the Mutt side is an 88. Kind of not too happy with how the Ultimate Team stuff's going this year. Way more bugs than I would like to admit, being a Madden stan. So we're kind of taking a little time off here before Call of Duty drops in 2 weeks. Gonna get the squad back and going. I got a work squad that we're gonna get into that. So if an 88's good on Madden right now, I'm not sure.
And you're an idiot in like Xbox more, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Right. Matt, where can we follow you on Twitter, and what are you working on?
You can follow me at Matt Ramage on Twitter, and also you can subscribe on YouTube. But yeah, I'm everywhere. But yeah, what I'm working on, I'm really nothing. I'm just doing the same stuff I always do, just the random crap. I'm gonna be at the game on Sunday. What I've been trying to do is like go down to tailgating, like record and like do interviews with like fans, and like I don't know if I'll do so much of that this Sunday because I'm gonna be at the game, so I'm probably gonna be in like party mode. But that is like what I'm trying to do, and I'm doing a thing where I'm going around Green Bay. I'm gonna start like reviewing like the places that people can eat, like for game day, so I can kind of show people like if they're never been to Green Bay, like where to go. I've been slacking on that, but that's one thing that I plan on doing coming up here.
Love it. Tim, how about you?
At Tim Backus on Twitter. That's my first and last name, no space, TIMBACKES. My columns on Cheesehead TV every Thursday morning. It's Hello Wisconsin. It's a combination of just like Packers thoughts, a mishmash of what I'm feeling about the Packers combined with everything Wisconsin. I have Wisconsin Beer of the Week that always drops. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll occasionally see pictures of my beer fridge, and it's very precariously balanced top right shelf gang hashtag on Twitter. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I've never been a tape grinder or anything like that. I leave that to folks who are much better at it, like Andy here, positioned above me on my screen. I don't know where it is. But yeah, but I feel like I have, reasonable takes. So I welcome all.
I wouldn't have you on if you had unreasonable takes. I'll tell you that, Tim. So your takes are more than reasonable. Appreciate everyone that joined us today. Matt, and Tim, thank you for joining as well. Greatly appreciate all the work that you are doing out in the Packer sphere. Keep up the amazing work. Make sure to follow all of them on Twitter. You can follow me at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. I'll be right back here on YouTube tomorrow with an all-new episode breaking down the scouting report for the Jets, so make sure to check that out. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.